Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and everyone out there, thank you so much for tuning in. So today, good news. And well, if you really enjoy the show, a little bit of sad news. Because today, yes, you guessed it, today is the final day that we are going to be on the air live until like January 13th. And, we might do like a show here or there. We have a couple of recorded shows that we're going to play during the week of CES with some very, very interesting guests. So, there will be new shows, but this will be the last show that we do live before the big event and up until after. So, man, we're going to be on for like almost like a solid month. Again, that does not mean that there won't be new shows. That means that we will have different things, and including CES itself, we will be out at the event. And, hey, it's going to be a lot of fun, and there's going to be a lot of stuff to be sure to check out. Now, waiting patiently in the wings is today's guest, and I could think of no better guest than the one, the only Nathan Evans from Popzara to wrap up I guess this is technically the end of the year with, and, we're going to have a fun show, we're going to relax, and at the same time, we're going to talk about some big stories and CES itself and what we plan to do out there, and, hey, what CES really means for you. So, with that being said, computeramerica.com, you'll find everything, including show notes. You'll find a link to our guest website, any articles, reviews, videos, topics, anything like that you want to find at Computer America. Well, you can certainly find it there. Computeramerica.com. Be sure to check out the live video feed. You can watch us. You can follow along with the show, or if you can't listen to us live on the radio, thank you, IRN, then be sure to catch us here on, be sure to catch us at our podcast, wherever podcasts are heard. So, with that being said, why don't we go ahead and get things started with our guest today. And as I said before, longtime contributor and, truly honestly friend of the show. And, they've helped us do so much, including covering past events such as CES, E3, and more. If you want to go check out their website, popzara.com, for a mix of current events, reviews, books, games, movies, you name it, they got it. Nathan Evans. Nathan, welcome back on to Computer America. How you doing?
Ben, may the force be with you. What's going on?
Not much. It's been a busy couple of days. Like I said, we've been recording a lot of shows to play and fill in our gaps. But other than that, it's I can't believe the end of the year is already here.
Well, technically, it's near the end of the year because you guys are going on your vacation. You're not letting me do it when I normally am here, so you guys can take off early and be lazy.
Well, this is our longest break that we traditionally take, which is, pretty much the 2 weeks between Christmas or, whatever 2 weeks Christmas and New Year's. So it's tradition to be lazy.
When someone says the longest break, that's like when they say we have the largest ball of yarn. It's like it only matters to the person it's happening to.
Yeah, but when you see the largest stack of flapjacks, you still pull over and you pay for the T-shirt, don't you?
So
Of course you do.
someone out there is like, no, just got their schedule for next week, going in to like wash some dishes or clean some carpet. Like I don't get no break. Computer
Hey,
America.
they make the world run, and we run computers, whatever the saying is. So with that being said, before we get started, why don't we go ahead and introduce Nathan Evans, of course, for those of you who haven't heard of him. And Nathan, talk about your mission statement over at popzara.com.
Well, I want to bring peace and happiness to the world, but if I can't do that, then
nice.
I'll make a website. I'll make a website that distracts you for, according to our statistics, 0.008 seconds with a bounce rate of like 1.2, which I think is pretty good for a website that doesn't feature intrusive ads. But no, popzara.com. It's a website. It's a magazine. It's all that kind of stuff. By the way, what does magazine mean anymore? It doesn't mean what it used to mean.
It means publication, but a different way to say it.
I hate to say this to all our vanquished foes, so to speak, but if we were a paper magazine, we'd be out of business, because that's not a good business to be in anymore. And that pains me to say it. Hurts me to say
and like really, obviously we're still a radio show, and we definitely enjoy that. But at the same time, I did a lot of driving over the past week or two, and I got to say that listening to the radio, oh my God, what a horrible experience compared to all other digital mediums.
We're talking terrestrial radio,
yes,
right? Not
yes.
podcasts, not
satellite. No. Terrestrial radio, yes.
Yeah, the kind, if you're like in certain parts of the country, it'll vacillate between Hispanic, Chinese, and biblical. But I'll say this: I was also on the road last week. I've been darting around. I spent some time in Savannah. I spent some time in New England. Again, it's trip time for me. I go before the holidays because it's cheaper. By the way, if you want to travel cheap, go before the holidays. But I'll say this: you're absolutely right. And what's funny? You're a radio show, but you're not really a radio show. You're a hybrid show.
Yeah.
And that's why you're still around, because you've hybridized. Whereas going on airplanes, they force you to read magazines. Have you seen this? They put their own magazines there, and they're all terrible. And so, yeah, that's magazines now.
Ever since they took away Sky Mall, yeah.
And you know me, I'm a magazine guy. I'm an enthusiast. But I'll say this: magazines are essentially 2 evolutionary steps above toilet paper. And I think there's a business opportunity to combine them. But
I mean, these like the internet has really changed what it means to be an kind of like an interactive content provider, because now people don't just want what you write; they want to know more than what you could possibly write. So
it's true. And you know what? Being around some young people and see how they absorb media, I get it. I mean, I totally get it. And I'm not saying anything we haven't talked about before, but it's always nice to see validation, because we really are in the middle of a transition. And I think the tech world has put their bets on 2 basic fundamental divergence, sort of, the road less traveled. And those 2 are audio podcasts, of course, audio programming, and visual streaming, aka live streaming. And I'll be honest with you, despite all the facts that, Facebook and Snapchat and all that, they've done some success, I actually think podcasts are winning. And I think they're winning for 2 reasons. One, some podcast, like if you looked at the massive success of podcasts transitioning into the mainstream, it's enormous. It is enormous. We have movies, we have TV documentaries coming out, we have one television show with Kate McKinnon just got
I knew that podcasting kind of made it when major publications like MSNBC, CNN, Fox, they all have their own podcasts.
Exactly, because it's cheaper and they don't have to pay the people as much. It's true. It's totally
true. But people like it.
They do, and it's relatively free, although they are trying to screw up the model. By the way, if your podcast has to be downloaded from a separate file and then uploaded to your iPod, it's not a podcast, it's an audio file. A podcast is literally a distribution system. You know this. And what NPR does, if you're listening to NPR, none of those are podcasts. That's radio shows recycled into downloadable files. A podcast is like us. It's almost like us. It's messy. You make mistakes. You might drop an F-bomb. You might drop a.
We try not to be fair.
We try not to, but sometimes you just got to say fudge. So, Ralphie. But the truth is, whereas live streaming has resulted in not that much. In fact, if you look at live streaming, it's only in the only news because people use it to commit robberies and kill people. And you see terrorist acts with it. You see people engaging in Bonnie and Clyde situations with it. Whereas podcasts have become home to great fiction, literature, real life crime dramas, all kinds of stuff. And it's immensely satisfying to use the theater of the brain in audio format.
So, I'm sure that you've heard because you of course have a number of podcasts that you
We do.
work with and
Yeah.
produce, especially the Popzara, the official Popzara podcast. You have heard of Blueberry, I assume.
Blueberry or Burberry?
Is it? It's well, Burberry is a fashion line, but Blueberry is they do like metrics for podcasting. BLUBRRY.
There's one we used to work with them. It used to be called Burberry, but it's not what you think. It's a different one. You have to forgive me. I am at the point of my life where it's hard for me to relearn fake words on the internet, if you know what I mean. Let's see here.
Yeah, so Blueberry is this one. It does metrics and it does everything that podcasting wants, and they do some
Yeah,
hosting and
I
stuff
know
like
the
that.
one you're talking about. I apologize. It's just I'm confusing it with something else.
Right.
Yeah,
I-
so metrics me, man. Metrics me.
Well, no, and it's not so much about the metrics. They sent out a mailer. We're on their mailing list because we're on every mailing list. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, listening to the show, this has been happening for ever since we've been around, ever since email addresses existed. Computer America. We appreciate that when you are asked for your email and you enter live at Computer America or anything at Computer America, we get those emails and we get spammed with your Taco Bell mailing list.
Yeah,
Stop
don't
it.
do that.
Stop
Yeah,
it.
don't do that.
So I will say that we actually subscribe to.
Hold on the phone. Instead of putting Computer America in those spam lists, find your local congressman and put them in the spam lists.
Even better, taxpayer
Even
dollars.
better.
Now,
Yes, please.
I will say that Blueberry, we're on this mailing list on purpose, and they had a couple of predictions for the new decade. They didn't even do the new year, but the new decade, although many of them pertain to the new year. And I wanted to kind of go over them with you because I thought they were pretty interesting. These guys are, they have someone from the development team, the customer support, CEO, marketing services coordinator, chief growth officer, things like that.
What do we got?
Yeah. So Blueberry, if you're listening, here we go. Let's pick apart your ideas. So Ian from their development team, Amazon moves in somehow, whether it's hosting, software, or stats. Of course, he says that Amazon will make a move on podcasting.
Aren't they already there? Because their backbone of web hosting is what AZ. What is it? AZ.
Amazon Web Services.
Yeah, they basically power everything. They power everything. Some of the Spotify's got into it. A bunch of hosting has got into it. I actually think Netflix is getting into it, which is hosted by Amazon. Amazon. Here's the thing: that whoever predicted that, I will add a prediction to it. It may rain at some point this year. It may not rain at some point this year. Amazon does what everybody else is doing. In some respect, they've become Apple, like a cheaper version of Apple, because they got a phone, we want a phone. They have music, we want music. They have this, we want this. Name a single product Amazon does that has not been done by someone else and popularized.
Yeah,
It makes sense.
Amazon definitely they move into a space and they offer something cheaper, better at a loss, and then they push everyone out, and then they're the king.
Not always better, to be fair, but sometimes cheaper. But the problem about Amazon podcasts, it makes total sense. I mean, they have the distribution center, they have the distribution network for it completely perfected. It would not be hard. To me, it would be an extension probably of Audible. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah. And of course, Audible is their property, and they have Amazon Music that they already do. The next one would just be, and I think it would be either an extension of Audible, like you said, or its own dedicated podcasting. Because I feel like if Amazon got into podcasting, they're very good at promoting it separately as its own service.
To be fair, it could be transformative because again, they're on everything, and they also. For those listening, it's like a double-edged sword where they also on one hand offer you the ability to self-publish your books.
Yeah.
And usually those self-published books go nowhere because there's no marketing to the self-publishing books. But then you can say, I'm a published writer. I self-published on Amazon. But
Yeah,
do you remember
I actually have to do that this year, but go ahead.
Yeah, the truth is that sorry, by the way, if self-publishing can work, but it mostly doesn't. So just remember before you write the great American novel, uh, you're writing it for yourself. So just keep that in
Yeah,
mind.
yeah, but at the same time, like whenever you're introduced anywhere, suddenly it's Ben, host of Computer America, and author. Like I need that and author to validate myself. So
That is true, by the way. You are ringing those bells. But I'll say this though, you remember Amazon also offered these pretty cool services. They offered the writer where it could help you write screenplay software. I know a lot of writers that I
I
work
remember
with
that.
used it. A lot of it's been shut down, but they did offer it, and they're much better, by the way. They're much better at supporting their software than, let's say, Google is. Google's in podcast. You don't even know it because they have it there and they haven't done anything with it. It's there. It's
Yeah.
just not supported. And so, I mean, Popzara is on Google Podcasts, but it's a pain in the butt to get there. And discovery is almost impossible because Google Music Services is awful. It's terrible. They have like 4 different versions, and that's not even count the YouTube versions.
I will say
So,
though that Apple redid the whole podcasting thing that Apple
mhm,
does, and they are still number one, and they're putting some
yeah,
real effort into it.
it's not even close. I don't know the parent companies, but there's a bunch of these companies that are they're basically trying to snatch content away. They're basically reverse engineering what YouTube did. YouTube, of course, grown organically with everybody, and now YouTube is in the process of kicking out people that
Yeah.
are non-profitable. You have, like I said, Spotify. You have a few others. There are groups that are buying podcasts and then monetizing them, and then pay gating them away and offering tricks and trolls. From what I understand, Apple is in the process of not just changing podcasts, which is basically just an RSS feed, but they're trying to do it with more meta and XML data, so you
Yeah.
can have series, you can search the podcast. Because let's be honest with you, podcasting is primitive. It is one step up from like cloud signals.
That explains why I could figure it out. I got you.
No, but that's been the fun part of it, isn't it? That's been the fun. It's fun to do a podcast. You could literally just use your phone and do a podcast and get audience
Yeah.
of millions.
True.
But I will say this final thought about this: podcasting to me is the intellectual equivalent to YouTube videos and streaming because um, while there are intellectual people on YouTube, while there is content on there that's worth watching if you're above the age of 4 and can think, the vast majority of content on YouTube is for idiots, and it makes you dumber for having seen it. Whereas
Uh,
podcasting requires a level of uh, um, attention that you can't just watch and be dazzled by the colors and the big boobs. And by the way, before you think I'm being offensive, YouTube streamers, you know what you're doing. We all see them. We all know it.
I will say though that Amazon currently, like you said, does audiobooks, they do music,
Mhm,
and of course they own Twitch.tv, which is a live
mhm.
streaming service. So like
Which you
other
use, right? Which you use.
yeah. We that's kind of how we host our video. But I will say that other than like YouTube's core model, which is uploading videos for later review, which Amazon does not do, uh, podcasting is the last one. So I think that's a pretty
Mhm.
safe bet, and maybe not this year, but maybe next year. Let's go ahead and move on to. So
Sure,
there's like 3 or 4 other people who have predictions. I
sure.
would like to hear your opinion. Next one, Sean, customer support. Indie podcasters will continue to form smallish networks to try to leverage combined show audiences, which I guess means small podcasters trying
I'm
to
sorry.
pay for themselves.
I can't listen without laughing. I'm so sorry.
Well, hey, these are predictions. So that's number one. Number two, at least one free in exchange for ads podcast hosting platform will close, which is kind of obvious. And moneyed interests will continue to try and redefine the space by offering paywalled exclusives. Most will
Which is what I
fail.
just said. I just said that.
Which he said most
Um,
will fail. He added that at the end.
well, yeah, most will fail because most anything fails. That's just the law of averages. You don't have to be smart to do that. But the whole thing is we're going to consolidate and federate. Okay, that nonsense has destroyed the web. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you're into unions, if you're into group collective bargaining, fine. But go look what happened to Deadspin and tell me that anybody's going to touch that thing with a 10-foot pole.
I don't
You
think it.
collect
I don't think it's like unionizing or anything like that. I think it's more struggling for survival, as
no.
like you said, these
That's what
bigger
happens.
corporations come in.
But that's what happens. I mean, there's been no evidence this has ever worked online. Like they keep trying this stuff. The problem is that you cannot get 10 disparate people in a room and expect them to elect someone their leader and have everything be fair. It doesn't work. Like literally the only thing that makes the internet working is a big company coming in and funding you. That's the only thing that works. When Gawker was discombobulated following the Peter Thiel nonsense,
I remember
where
that.
Gawker and they were all split up Univision. Again, listeners, please go read what happened to Deadspin about a month and a half ago and go tell me that works, because you're competing against this utopian idea that everyone's going to get together, we're all going to work together, we're all going to share the profits. Utopia. It doesn't work. It doesn't even to further my point. Go look at freeware. Go look at GNU license things and Linux kernels, Open Office, and all this stuff. You get 5 people together, they fight about everything. They cannot work together. They just can't. And if you can find me an example of where um, collective survival, where people have come together to create these smaller networks have worked, it just doesn't, because people are egotistic and they don't understand business, and that's really the problem. It's because it's the whole internet bubble again. We're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. That requires an enormous amount of money. It requires an enormous amount of infrastructure. And right now, and you know this, Ben, the web is not built for this. The web is built on unified API systems. Like, for example, you want to start a website, you have WordPress, you have self-hosting, you have Squarespace, you have these companies that provide you the backbone. You want to monetize? What are your choices? PayPal, Google, Square, all this stuff.
Yeah.
You in order to survive, you have to use pre-existing things. And at some point, you become it becomes not necessarily a system, it becomes an e-commerce business, and an e-commerce business requires money and capital. And when no one knows how to do business because everyone wants to be the creative, no one wants to bring in the financial people, they don't want that, you're going to fail, because money talks. We don't live in a socialist utopian society, we live in a capitalist society. And as much as I applaud that concept, it's never translated. It just doesn't work.
No,
And
I think that you're
I'm not
right.
a pessimist.
And
I'm not a pessimist, by the way. I'm not a pessimist. I've just been through this
well,
cycle 4 times.
so and to prevent this whole show from just being the current state of podcast, I did want to get through a couple of these
Yeah, I'm
other
sorry.
ones.
I'm sorry. Good luck, though. By the way, good luck, podcasters.
Well, hey, and we have like 2 or 3 more, and this next one is from the CEO of Blueberry, and they say that Facebook, much like Amazon is going to move in, Facebook is going to do something for podcasting specifically, and he puts a little personal touch on it, saying he has no confirmed information, but lots of whispers. So that's someone who is on the inside.
I've heard that too. When I was talking about live streaming, I was really talking about Facebook. Facebook's made a big inward towards it. The problem about Facebook, though, is that Facebook could offer that, but the funny thing about Facebook is that Facebook, instead of becoming a newspaper, Facebook has become like Craigslist. They've monetized the social network in a way that's been very profitable. They've offered services like Facebook Marketplace. You can sell things, you can share recipes, you can play games, you can stream games. They've become a communal thing. I'm not necessarily sure Facebook has ever been successful at curating content, though. Have they? Has Facebook ever been successful at curation? They've tried it with phones, they've tried it with services, but I don't think it's ever worked.
So I think that they are just like Google, mainly an ad-driven platform. But they tried the news thing where they tried to curate news for people, and that got them into like that. Almost got the CEO of Facebook dragged off to The Hague for like war crimes, like that.
Yes, you're talking about the congressional testimony?
Yeah, they did not do it well, and I'm trying to think. Like they have like their own live streaming platform. It is abysmal even compared to Microsoft's live streaming platform. I don't know if people go, like, ever since like the crash of the Flash game, I don't know if people go to Facebook for content anymore.
Facebook has become one of those things that's hard to explain to young people. It's become boring but effective. Like for example, like the feeling. We've talked about this. I have a Windows 10 machine. I love Windows 10. I like it. But at a certain point, you get that itch where you want to try something new. So you might try Chrome OS, you might try Mac OS, you might try Linux. But because it's chaos, right? It's like going on a vacation. Like you give up the safety of your home to go out in the woods and fend off bears, or you go to Europe and fend off bears. But what I'm saying is that you want to you almost take this stability for granted. And Facebook is so good at what its core thing is. Whereas you go onto networks like Twitter, which is a cluster cluck. It's a disaster. Twitter Twitter is the garbage dump of online, whereas Facebook is relatively sane. And when you have someone like Mark Zuckerberg, who I'm no fan of, right? I'm not a big fan of him, but why is it controversial that he would defend freedom? Because it's not that people complain that Mark Zuckerberg, for example, you're talking about advertising and curating truthfulness in ads, right?
Right.
That's not controversial to me. That's how all media runs. That's how every newspaper has ever run, every TV station has ever run. The person pays for the ads as long as it's not malicious. It's not the newspaper's job to validate whether it's true or not. If it did, we wouldn't have any ads. How many times have you seen commercials? We're the best in the business. We have the best this. We have the best this. We have this. They don't. They use this. We don't. It's all fake. It's all lies.
I believe the technical term or the legal term is called fluffery.
It's an F word, but I'll say this. And people say, well, that should extend to advertising.
So you're saying that Facebook moving into podcasting probably won't work? Is what you're saying?
I just don't see it. I don't see.
You don't see it happening altogether.
Well, podcasts don't make money, and when they do make money, it's pennies on the dollar from affiliate marketing for like toothbrushes and mattresses, and suitcases. I mean, you've listened to podcasts, right? For anybody who listens to podcasts, you can tell what type of audience it is by the type of ads. Like if you watch Fox News, you're going to see catheter ads. If you watch CNN, you're going to see medical ads. You're going to see this. Same with podcasts. You're going to see, if you listen to a conservative podcast, you're going to hear about gold and guns.
Yeah.
And if you listen to a liberal podcast, you're going to hear about other podcasts.
Or probably like CBD oil or stuff like that. So.
Oh yeah, lots of CBD.
So I got you there. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. This next one is Mackenzie, Marketing Services Coordinator. Less of a prediction, more of a plea. And so this is not a prediction, but something that she's asking of the market. Seamless integration for marketing a podcast on all social media platforms, mostly coming from hosting companies, but cooperation would require social platform side as well.
That's just a plugin. I mean, that when you say seamless, that's just sharing.
Yeah.
Twitter does that already. I mean, there are APIs that do it. Podbean does it. A few others do it. I mean, that's up to the developers to share. I mean, but that already happens. It's just the problem is all these different services. Like one of the stories I sent you, we can talk about later, is about all the companies coming together to make a standard for digital assistants, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we talked last month, the month before, about they're trying to make a new standard to combat SMS, right?
Right.
That's because there's no money in different formats. There needs to be not regulation, Ben. What's the word I'm looking for? There needs to be symmetry between these companies. If you're going to make money, there's no money paving your own road. We all need to get there and build the roads. I do agree, though, that podcasting is primitive, and podcasting, there's no controller of it. It's unregulated. What makes it exciting is what makes it so clunky to share.
So yeah, and again, that was kind of a plea. Again, not really a prediction. Like, she's not saying that this is going to happen, but I guess it needs to go from just the like, the reshare, the retweet, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. You do that for an article. You do that for a video on YouTube. You do that for a GIF. You do that for a TikTok. But I guess she's what I mean. But she's hoping for something a little bit different for long form media.
I agree, but I have a suggestion for them.
Mm-hmm.
Stop merging video and audio. Stop this. It's wasted resources. I'm tired of seeing podcast boxes in some recycled video format. YouTube is not a podcast. YouTube is a video service. If anything, I would like to see YouTube do podcasts, right? But
that would be what our, one of our chatters in the chat room saying that, YouTube would be a natural fit because, Google already has Google Podcasts, but no.
Yeah. Get rid of Google Podcasts. It doesn't work. It does not work. It is horrible. Get rid of it. Make YouTube podcasts. Make audio only alternative to YouTube. Add a couple in there. You got a success story right there. The network's there. The audience is there. The playlists are there. Everything is there. YouTube, if you're just stop being stupid and stop banning people and just do something right. The company's run by an idiot. I'm sorry. The person running YouTube is so stupid. They are holding their own thing back. And what they're doing now to curators and creators by banning people that aren't fiscally viable is horrible. Like, if the only reason they're around is because everyone else is even dumber. than YouTube. Like you have Venmo, you have Vimo, you have all these other competitors that cannot come in and pick up the vacuum slack. If I had the money, I would love to take on YouTube. I would love to take it, not for any money. I would kill YouTube off, and then I'd say I'm done and walk away like a samurai, victorious. Because there's just such, oh my goodness.
Okay, so with that being said,
I don't have a lot of love for YouTube.
That's coming in loud and clear. With that being said, though, I'm not even going to address the last point. There's one last one, but it's so ridiculous I don't even want to say it. So, with that being said, we go back to our topics at hand, and actually, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to get as much time as I could about CES 2020, and then we'll move on to some of the other ones to fill it in. But yeah, CES.
I have an announcement for you, Ben.
Oh no, what's that?
I will be going to CES 2020.
No way.
Okay, that's kind of a lie. I will be attending CES 2020, but I will not be attending the show. I'll be attending the peripheral shows. For those who don't know, CES is a giant mismatch, a show that I actually quite like. I actually like CES. It's still respectable. You can still show up and wear a wrinkly shirt and smell like potato chips and still be professional.
Good, because that's my plan. Yes. Good.
By the way, according to Dilbert, do not store your shirts in Pringle cans. But anyway, here's the thing. So it's not just the Las Vegas Convention
There's
Center.
CES, there's Eureka Park, there's the Venetian Sands Expo. You're going to some of those?
Yeah, I'll be some of those, and I will be attending our good friend Steve's Showstoppers, which I know you'll be at too.
Mr. Steve asked if we'd like to set aside some room to broadcast from, but I told him no, we're doing something a little bit different. We'll be recording interviews on the floor, but not broadcasting from the floor.
Steve is a good guy, and for those who don't know, if you're into this business at all, Steve is a solid player. He's remarkably consistent. I'll say that. See, if you're listening to this, never change.
He is very matter of fact and business-like, and in this business, that's what you need.
It might come across gruff to some people, but trust me, and Ben, you know this. Trust me, he is consistent in a way that few people in this business are consistent.
Oh, he'll get it done. He'll get it done.
But he gets the job done, and that's what you need. No babies.
So yeah, and Showstoppers, and what about PepCom? You heading to PepCom?
Nah, I love PepCom, and Kate, if you're listening, we love you. The schedules just couldn't mix, but that's okay. We'll still see your clients anyway. But I'll say this: we'll talk about it more after the show. I won't be the only Popzara person, but we're gonna have a lot of fun. So it's gonna be a blast.
Yeah, I really do think so. So Showstoppers, that I think takes place the night of the 7th, I want to say. Something like that. So
when is it? The 6th or the 10th this year? 4 days of fun. Let me see.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. The show is the 7th, 8th. Is it the show the 7th through the 10th? Is that it?
Well, 7th through the 9th. I think it's only 3 days actually, and then like there's like a pre-event, like a pre-day show.
Yeah, it's not as bad as E3, where they say the show takes place here, but they have shows a week before. That's just stupid.
CES, I've noticed, is very front end loaded. Like I've even had invitations for press events that start like January 4th. I'm like, that just won't work.
Okay, by the way, Tuesday the 7th through Friday the 10th. So that's technically 4 days. But to be honest with you, the 4th day is let's just wrap this up. And
I have seen the big companies actually break down their booths and be gone before the end of the 4th day.
Yeah. Basically, the 4th day is like the last day of the zombie apocalypse, where there's just nothing there.
If you like free stuff, that's when people are like, I don't want to carry this home. Here you go, and they chuck like tables at you. They give you like cooler fluents, old used assistants and interns. They'll just give them to you.
Full disclosure, we're not there the whole time this year. Like I said, it's just sometimes they're there. This particular show is going to be fun, though, because there's not going to be anything revolutionary, but there will be evolutionary stuff. And to me, we've talked about this. I like evolutionary over revolutionary any day of the week, because if a product makes it to an iterative cycle, like 3rd or 4th generation, that product's good. And whereas you get crap like 3D and VR and wearables and all that garbage, that it lasts a little bit, but it doesn't excite me. I want to see developed platforms, networking interfaces. I want to see the stuff that actually does stuff that I can sink my teeth into, not fads. I hate fads. And I know this is going to sound strange to you, but you know what? I'm actually kind of excited seeing a little bit.
What's that?
It's not a product that affects me at all in any way, shape, or form. But do you remember a couple of years ago, it might have been last year, where there was controversy over the award-winning adult, I'll just say it, adult toys?
Did you get that email too about the new one?
Yeah, it's good that it's there because that's a sector of technology that
I think they
literally
gave it
services.
like its own category because like last
Yeah,
year it was like they removed the toy for being obscene for the show and not fit
well,
with values.
I
Now they
mean,
gave it its own category.
exactly, because they didn't know what to do. It's sort of like Dexby's. If you remember the Grammys like 30 years ago, they didn't have a category for metal, and so they would just merge like brass instruments and pop, and so you get someone like Dexby's Midnight Runners who got a metal Grammy. Metal. They play flutes. So what I'm saying is that while sex toys and adult whatever PC word you want to call them, I mean they're talking about women in tech, but it's not just women. But these things are a real valid part of technology, and you have to treat them seriously because they exist, and it's a big market sector. If you go to Best Buy or something, they have toothbrushes, they have blenders and everything, and then Lord knows they have massage chairs for guys up the wazoo. But when we talk about VR, the biggest application for VR has always been pornography. It's not games. If you're buying a VR headset for gaming, uh, you're doing it wrong. It's porn, and so you have this thing. And while I don't necessarily partake in it. I don't want to see it stifled because CES is puritanical, especially when there's a lot of money to be made. And I'll be honest with you, man, that's how a lot of females are going to get into the tech industry. That interests them, and so I want to see that. I want to see more of that, and you know, I think the things look like aliens.
I have seen that a lot of what you're talking about, especially like the VR stuff and the toys. Like I've even seen like the adult toys at
Hmm.
showstoppers. You know, like they were at the show. It's just they were intermingled with like you could be looking at a booth that was advertising like the alternative dot pet dot co dot dot house whatever, and then the next one adult toys, and then the next one it's the next smart vacuum cleaner. Like they never had their own niche, and I think that really hurt the space by
Yeah.
not giving them the proper attention because it's like I feel like people saw them and then they quickly glossed over them because it's like I can't
Well,
cover that with all these other stories.
Well, that's the thing, though. It's guys that cover it, though. That's the problem. It's guys that cover it. And if you want to get females interested in this business, look, you're not allowed to be at the show unless you're 18. So I have this aversion where the maturity level of the tech and gaming industry have both treat adults like children. And I don't like that. I don't want my game censored. I don't want my movie censored. I don't want my tech censored. I don't want my tech coverage censored. My audience will decide that for myself. And it's time for them to grow up. And again, it's not my jam. I don't care about vibrators and sex toys, but a lot of people do. And a lot of jobs can be created from this. And we got to beat China, man. We got to beat China in the vibrator race because Lord knows there. I mean, I'm surprised it's not Japan. Japan, we should have transforming vibrators that can defend the universe, but we don't because there's a stigma. We have toilets. We have
Yeah,
Japanese toilets, which
and the stigma is definitely lifting. There, the fact that I really don't have a problem talking about this on the show. Like we've even had these
well,
guests on the show talking about their
mhm.
products.
To be fair,
Um,
though, we're using adult language. Though we're using proper euphemisms. We're not saying nasty things because, again, we're
you
grown-ups.
you have to speak about it the right way. I mean, you can't just go hog wild and just start
Oh,
yeah.
that's after show. Join us later for the real thing. But
Computer America After Dark. Exactly.
you'd be so popular. Um, no,
I
but
I probably wouldn't, but I will say that CES in general, I'm glad that you're going to
yeah,
be there. We will definitely meet up and
yes, a lot
kind
of
of
fun.
compare notes. And overall, just looking at the emails that I'm getting and stuff like that,
Mhm.
it's just going to be a fun show. Like you said, there's not one company that's coming out and they're going to be
There's no
like,
pressure. There's no
yeah,
pressure.
yeah,
There's no pressure. It's
yeah.
fun too. I mean, and I'll just say one more thing about CES. The people who run the show are much better at this than other people. You have a show that has never tried to be something it's not, has never felt envy of the upcoming. Like we've seen other genre shows, like for example, well, E3 for example.
E3,
We've
yeah.
seen we've seen San Diego Comic Con, which have been stretched out to the point of that they no longer serve the original intent, and they become bastardized. They become unwatchable dreck for manipulating fan bases, and that's true. It's true. I'm sorry, E3, you're dead to me. Don't call me. Block your number. Bye, Felicia. To the left. But when it comes
You
to
say
CS,
block the
CS
number,
is cool.
but they leaked all your credentials. So now,
No, that's the
everyone
thing.
has your number.
I told you that is how they treat the press. They treat them like garbage. And so they leaked all your press credentials. There you go. You don't take yourself seriously. You don't take your journalist seriously. And I've always said this before. Final thought. If you're a video game journalist, act like one. Have some self-respect and stand up for yourself. Don't act like babies and trade your dignity for a t-shirt. Because the t-shirt's not worth it. I can give you a t-shirt for $3. You're worth more than $3.
Yeah, and of course E3, it's its own monster. But I'm just saying, I'm glad that we're talking about CES, and and at least we're not saying this might be the last CES ever.
No, are you kidding? That show is healthy. That show is thriving because they service so much, and that's why I think adding adult toys is part of that, because it used to be the Adult Video Network show was right next door, and that would be a spectacle. But we talked about this. But they merged. But there's been merging of it. You had porn stars like Ron Jeremy host tech shows. Ron
Jeremy is surprisingly active in the tech community. He's
hugely active. He's a fun guy, and he looks like if Super Mario had let himself go, that's what Ron Jeremy looks like. But no, I mean, again, I'm not trying to make light of it, but I really do think that it's a target market that serves, when used properly, as a healthy expression of being an adult, whatever you are, man, woman, whatever. And I think as an adult, you have the right to partake in that. And I don't think CES should impose, some reactionary, puritanic,
well, they're not. They're actually embracing it. So
now, but they embarrassed that poor woman a few years ago, and that was not right. And
that was just last year, by the way. You keep
was it last year?
You keep fuzzying up the dates. It was just last year, just 11 months ago.
It seems like forever, doesn't it?
Yeah, but again, I don't know. I really do believe, because we actually got invited to come speak with her and interview her, and I feel like she had her moment in the sun. I really do feel like she kind of milked it just a little too bit. But
I would have too.
Yeah, no. She handled that as best she could, but at the same time, when I get emails saying, "Oh, from last year's biggest story," and I'm like, probably not this year's though. But
well, there is money in self-victimization as well. Just remember that.
True. So CES 2020, Computer America is going to be out there. I think we start making content, and I say making content because we won't be broadcasting. We'll be uploading stuff to YouTube. So about the 6th, and I think we're there through the 10th. Yeah, we'll be catching the dregs of it. But yeah, our mission there is to really check out a lot of these booths, really check out, almost every company we've had on the show over the past year has reached out to us and said, "Hey, we'd like to see you out at our booth."
Yeah, exactly.
We don't have the manpower for that, but we're going to try our best.
Here's what we say for both Popzara and Computer America. There's been so many invites, and join me on this one, Ben, if you disagree. There's so many invites. It would be impossible to see everybody. However, we will make good faith efforts to stop by, shake hands, get some product samples, maybe get to know you, and we can work after the show. That's when the real magic happens.
Work after the show. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the magic.
It's that's kind of our hope, is that we get enough business cards that when we call them after the show, we have them on for an hour instead of talking to them for 2 minutes at the show.
The best part is when you call them after the show. Who's this?
Yeah, but that's why you got to make an impression. You really got to punch them in the nose or something like that. It's like, oh yeah, that one. Yeah, that guy.
That's because Computer America has never been mistaken for pop stars. That's the problem.
That's true. We did not fit into the leather. But I will say, with that being said, CES 2020, early next year, look forward to it. It's going to be a big deal.
Coming up.
Yep. So now, looking at other stuff, and by the way, let's see. So just some off-topic stuff. I will say that, The Mandalorian, that is the first time I've watched a TV show as it was coming out in probably like a decade. Oh my God, I love The Mandalorian.
You say Mandalorian, but what you're really saying is Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda is a very, very cute, sidekick to Mando, and I will say that
Are we calling it Mando now? I've heard that before. Are we calling it Mando?
Mando is the name that all the other characters use within the show for the main character. His name is Mando. He's Mando the Mandalorian. Yeah.
Haven't watched an episode yet, but I'm the kind of guy that I need to binge.
Well, and I completely agree. And by the way, that was my kind of review. Like, I didn't write anything for the website, but Disney Plus review for me. If I had a week set aside, like if the holidays are coming up, and they give you a 1 week free trial, I think I could watch all the content I would like to watch on Disney Plus in 1 week, and then I could cancel the review with no regrets.
Real quick, full disclosure, we like Disney Plus at Popzara. We've many staff members have gotten a Disney
It's
Plus
good, but it's so
subscription for Christmas.
threadbare. It's so threadbare.
Yeah, but they lie though. That's the problem. So what Disney Plus did, they chop up the shows. They don't do binging like Netflix. That's why they draw it out. That's why The Mandalorian has been drawn out, because you cannot. If you joined when it first started, you'd have to pay for at least 1 month to finish it. So I don't like how Disney Plus lists so many products that are not available. Have you seen that? Like, you'll go, oh, Lion King, oh, it's not there. Oh, Aladdin, oh, it's not there. Oh, it's not there. It's there, but you can't watch it because it's not there.
I wanted to, and really the reason that I kind of signed up for it was The Mandalorian for one, and two was to catch up on the Marvel character universe. They only have like a dozen, and not the best ones.
Well, because Netflix has most of them, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. Because Netflix has a pre-existing deal with Netflix that goes back Disney, that goes back a few years. So I had a friend yesterday who was watching the Star Wars movies, but he could not watch The Last Jedi. Lucky guy. But no, he found it. He found it on Netflix, and he found it like Aladdin. He found, I think, The Lion King on Netflix. So I watch it for The Simpsons. I'll be honest with you. I've been going through, and it's been kind of fun,
Yeah.
and it's been a time capsule, and it makes me feel old. But
They only have about 30 seasons on there, so
only
yeah.
only
So,
700 episodes, but and but it's fun to go back and say that. And I know, yeah, they botched the aspect ratio. That's fine. But the fact is that Disney Plus is going to be a powerhouse in about 4 years, 3 or 4 years, when they start regaining all the rights to the stuff they've licensed away. Um, I don't know if it's going to be anybody's favorite streaming network, because one would presume you've seen the content already.
yeah.
And therein lies the problem about Disney Plus. I don't want to review the service, but it's not going to be the most original. Even though they have original shows, they're going to have this and that. It's Disney, and they play it safe.
I
And
I think that's where Disney Plus really comes in, is that a lot of their content that you're going to sign up to see uh, already has $1 billion backing it. Whereas not Hulu, whereas Netflix has to say we're going to spend $20 billion in original content. Disney has already done that year. They've already allocated that money. It's
yes,
just you're going to see it in theaters before you see it at home.
yeah, except for the made for TV stuff, which is like Lady and the Tramp and whatever. But
Which, I was surprised. I didn't even know there was a new live action Lady and the Tramp. So,
and they have all the Fox stuff and everything. I mean, it's a decent collection, but it's
Yep.
Nostalgia Channel. But again, you're not going to see the level of
Now-
painstaking that you would with like Netflix.
now, and by the way, to Mr. Bayou in the chat room, the originals on there are a good variety. The originals being on Netflix. I really do think that Netflix has some of the best originals, and for the moment, they have some really good deals with some really big shows. So,
I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to say Netflix has the best originals, and Netflix has the best movies. And that's been evident when you see like some of the award nominees this year, when you have things like The Irishman, or My Name is Dolomite, or even Amazon to some respect has things like, no, I'm sorry, Netflix has Marriage Story. You have a lot of originals on Amazon. You have adult movies that are rated R or not rated. You'll never see that on Disney Plus. You're never going to see The Irishman on Disney Plus. You're never going to see
True.
Stranger Things on Disney Plus. You're never going to see, I mean, look at the Marvel stuff. You said Marvel. You're never going to see an R-rated Daredevil like we had on Netflix on Disney Plus. You're
True.
going to see truncated, family-friendly versions, and those are going to be satisfying on some level. But as an adult, though, you're going to feel condescended to at some level. You're going to feel that there's nothing for you, and that's a problem.
Yep.
And that will be felt.
So,
wait till
yeah.
wait till Deadpool 3 comes out and it's PG-13. Wait till the new Blade comes out and it's PG-13.
You think? I mean, between Deadpool and Joker, I mean, it seems like R-rated comic book movies, they do okay. Like, they don't make as much as Frozen 2, but they hold
No.
their own.
They don't even come close. The problem is the movies may make money at the box office, but that's not the money. The money is the toys. Frozen 2 has toys up the wazoo. That movie has made twice as much money in toys as it did at box office. There are FCC rules and regulations stating
Which is
that
crazy
you
because
cannot.
Frozen 2 actually made about $13 trillion, I think, in box office.
But it hasn't but it hasn't had quite the success of the first one from ancillary stuff because it doesn't have the song. But I'll say this: um, you don't see Deadpool toys from the movies. You don't see this kind of stuff the same way because they don't advertise R-rated movies to kids like that. And so, but if Deadpool becomes family friendly, which by the way they've already done, they recut Deadpool 2 to be family friendly. They re-released it in the theater and they called it Once Upon a Deadpool.
I remember that.
And so that's their test market. They have a new Blade coming out with Martian Ali, the guy from Netflix. Pete, you think it's going to be R-rated? You think you're going to have Wesley Snipes saying, I can't even say what Wesley Snipes says because it's R-rated. But it's fun and it's funny and you know what I'm talking about. You think he's going to say that in the Disney movies? I don't think so.
True, and so what you're saying is subscribe to Apple TV Plus. That's what you're saying.
That's
Now-
been forgotten.
Now,
So,
my loose attempt to go from The Mandalorian to the latest Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, 2019.
yes.
Man, the marketing has been everywhere. I will say this: people know about the movie, surprisingly, and I will say that from what I hear, the very limited amount of information I hear about this new movie, and by everyone I mean like 4 people, everyone is mad that they're bringing back Palpatine for some weird reason.
I'm not going to spoil it for you.
yeah.
I'm going to see the movie in about 3 hours. So, as the managing editor, I get the scraps. But I'll say this: I just got off the phone with our friend Chris Mitchell, my senior editor, who, by the way, will be going to CES.
Nice.
He was literally walking out of the theater while we were talking, and I asked him what he thought, and he said, it's okay, not as bad as I heard. Like, no excitement in his voice. So that's an improvement over how he felt about Last Jedi. So his righteous indignation from that movie has been replaced with stunning indifference.
Isn't that kind of perfect though for Disney and the Star Wars universe? Because like I feel like if they ended on such a high note that they're like, that's the perfect wrap up, I don't need any more Star Wars in my life, blah blah blah, then we wouldn't get Rogue One, Mandalorian, we wouldn't get I guess the extended universe of Star Wars.
I'm not a Star Wars nerd like that, but I am what you would call an analyzer of data, right? And here's the facts. When I buy tickets to go see these movies and I invite people, I had for Revenge of the Sith back in 2005, I had 30 people go with me. 30. Well, for Force Awakens, because of time and distance, I had about maybe 20. For Last Jedi, I had maybe 10, 12. For this movie, I have 4. The problem is when Last Jedi came out, say what you will, we all know about the Rotten Tomatoes fiasco. We all know about this. The fact is, something happened with that movie that divided people. And for the social justice set, for the progressive blogs, all this to say, oh, if you didn't like this movie, you're a racist, you're a white supremacist, you're all this, all the checklists of all the things, missed the point. And their own prejudice made them feel that subversiveness made this movie better, that this is Star Wars. But people didn't feel this way. So whatever side you fall on, the facts are this: the movie was divisive as hell, and it reverberated in a way that could not be explained by racism and all this stuff. The movie just wasn't very good. And when Solo came out 6 months later, it bombed. That's unthinkable. That a Star Wars movie would bomb? Unthinkable. But I also looked at the ancillary stuff. No toys got sold. Nobody bought toys from Last Jedi. There's been no breakout characters, no breakout memes, no breakout this, no corroborating everything. We have to bring back stuff. When this movie
They
comes
made
in,
that up with Baby Yoda.
well, that's the thing. Baby Yoda's an accident, right? But when it comes to this movie, there's been zero excitement. Like there might be box office, but the problem is that's not enough because there needs to be this generating force outside
There
of it.
needs to be like the next Vader. There needs to be something. Yeah.
But you know what it feels like? It kind of feels like, if I can just brag a little bit, there's a show on Netflix, a show on Netflix that we've interviewed the man. It's called
The Witcher.
Our good friend.
No.
Yeah. By the way, which is on Netflix, not on Disney Plus. I don't think so. But anyway, our good friend Brian Volks-Weiss from Netflix, he's a producer. He does a nostalgia show called The Toys That Made Us, and he does a spin-off show called The Movies That Made Us. Please watch the new season of The Toys That Made Us and watch the episode about Power Rangers, because in that episode he talks about how Disney owned the Power Rangers for a very brief time in the early 2000s when they bought Fox. They took over Fox Family,
Yeah.
and they rechristened it Disney Family or whatever, and they owned the Power Rangers. And you'd think the world's biggest company who knows how to franchise could make the Power Rangers bigger than ever. It was a disaster that almost killed the franchise. The original people had to come in and rebuy it. With all due respect to these new Star Wars things, I don't think anybody can sit here and say Disney's done a good job with this. They've mangled this franchise. They have taken something that was considered the zenith of cinema, the most beloved movie franchise of all time, and made it substandard and divisive. And the people running this franchise, the people running this entity, this IP, clearly don't seem to understand it. And I would not be surprised if at some point George Lucas comes out of his cave and buys it back, because it's not being handled well. It's not. There's no magic here. Regardless what you think about the movies, these movies are divisive in a way the original movies never were. I'm not trying to be the nerd here, but you can't tell a Star Wars fan that they're racist. You can't tell a Star Wars fan that they're sexist with a straight face. These movies have always been diverse. Okay, maybe not the most diverse, but they've had black actors. Darth Vader is black. Lando Calrissian is black. You have Carrie Fisher, one of the most iconic female characters of all time. It's not sexist. You can't retroactively impose modern day nonsense on the most beloved franchise of all time and have that sit well with people who are your biggest base. It's like, I hate to make this comparison, but I'm going to. Do you remember the 2016 election? The most winnable, no, seriously, this is not politics. The most winnable election of all time was lost when the major leading candidate, I'm not going to say names, called half of the country deplorable. You do not insult people that you want to vote for you. You do not insult fans. You want their money. If I'm making Star Wars and I want your money, you're my best friend. I love you. Here, you want lightsabers? Here's a lightsaber. But don't insult me. And don't say I'm racist because I don't buy your schlock. And I think that's the you remember the Death Star when it blows up in Star Wars? It does that big ring.
Yeah.
That's what happened with Last Jedi. A million voices cried out of indifference. And the problem is, regardless how this movie does, I hope I like it. I really hope I cry and I cheer. I want to love Star Wars again. But Disney is making it real hard because everything, what they're doing, makes it so damn hard to like. And I've never seen a company work so hard to make things so unlikable. I don't get it. How do you screw it up? Baby Yoda? Help us, Baby Yoda. You're our only hope. Help us, Baby Yoda. Because Baby Yoda is damn cute. But I don't know if Baby Yoda is enough. But again, we'll see. But it's to me, Ben, it's just sad that I'm not excited about Star Wars. Yeah, that's it right there.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. And again, I don't think that the trilogy was really the thing that was going to push toys and sell things. I'm really hoping that we get almost like what we have with the Marvel character universe, we get with the Star Wars universe. That's just
we could have it.
It's so rich. It's so rich, but then at the same time, the creator and the director of this trilogy is like, we don't care about the extended universe. We don't care about that or this or whatever. I'm like,
no, it all goes back. It's a prequel or a sequel. You know what's funny? You watched Mandalorian. I have not watched it yet, but you know what really makes me happy? Two things.
What's that?
Billy D. Williams is in that show. And Werner Herzog. You got Werner Herzog in Star Wars. That's amazing. You like Werner, right? You've seen him, his voice? The German guy.
Yeah.
He's a documentary maker. He makes amazing documentaries, and he occasionally plays roles in action movies. It's the weirdest dichotomy I've ever seen. Like, he makes award-winning documentaries, and he plays bad guys in action movies. That's what he does.
I will say that I also saw and Werner Herzog. Now that I'm seeing his face, he's
awesome. His voice is awesome.
He played that character, and I mean he commanded just that whole episode. It was perfect. And also unfortunately I can't remember her name. The actress that was in the first Deadpool, as kind of like the real, I guess, kind of macho villain for Deadpool, and she got to play in one. And I was like, I've seen her before. I like how they're taking people that you've seen or heard, but aren't too famous, but are just perfect for the role.
But you know what's funny? They had, what's her name, Brienne from Game of Thrones. I forget the actress's name. The big, really tall one.
Yeah.
She's so great. By the way, that is Samus Aran from Metroid. Nintendo, get her on the line. But they gave her Captain Phasma, and she's this awesome costume. And seriously, she's an awesome costume. And the character's stupid, and she gets put in a trash compactor. And then in this new movie, you have Kerry Russell from J.J. Abrams. What's that show he made? Felicity. Yeah, she's in the show. She's in this movie, but you don't see her because she's in a mask.
Yeah.
What's the deal with getting these great actresses and you put them in masks? They're attractive. You want to show that off.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm thinking of Gina Serrano, who played Angel Dust in Deadpool. I had to Google it.
She's intimidating. She's what we call a BB, a bad you know what.
And seeing her on screen with the Mandalorian was just like that's perfect casting. It's really hitting a lot of marks. Now I was going to say, Nathan, we are flat out of time. I really wanted to talk about the next Xbox, but hey, that's not coming out for a whole year, so we'll find
cube,
time.
The square. By the way, can I have one thing? I was on your show and I predicted the name. You remember this? I predicted what the name was going to be, and I said I think they're just. I said this. Look back in your records. I said they're either just going to call it Xbox or they're going to call it Xbox Next. Now I'm going to split the difference because it is called Xbox. They're just calling it Series, but it's called Xbox Series X. So I'm taking 50% of the credit for being right.
That's fine, and you can have 50% of whoever got paid to name the thing because I'm sure they got zero because that's awful.
Exactly. It's the worst name in the world. But you know what though? I don't care if it's boring as long as the damn thing works.
So I will say that, Nathan, we're flat out of time. Popzara.com. Go there. I see that you have, of course, the latest review of Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker's up already. You guys work fast and more. Nathan, looking forward to seeing you out CES next month.
I don't drink, but I do drive, so prepare yourself for a ride because I am renting a car.
Perfect. So, everyone, until next year, everyone, we'll catch you next time. Again, there will be new shows, just not live, so keep an eye out for that. We have a whole week of shows planned for you. But hey, until next time, everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much, and hey, tune back in. Everyone, see you later. Bye-bye.
Happy holidays. Bye.